Let's bring in Democratic Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut. I don't need to tell you, someone who is as deeply versed in this issue as anyone, how big it is on the campaign. We heard from you and others a lot at the convention that Donald Trump killed the bipartisan bill to address this. That's the bill you co-sponsored. There's also an argument that that's the message that's been out there since it happened more than 6 months ago. And Trump still wins in poll after poll after poll on immigration. So do you think that argument is going to resonate? What's going to change the trajectory there?
Well, it is going to resonate. It's true. We have to repeat this message over and over, but it's a pretty simple message. Kamala Harris supported a tough bipartisan border security bill that would have fixed most of the problems at the border. Donald Trump was for it until he realized it would actually solve the problem. And then at the last minute, he instructed all of his allies in the Senate to vote against it because he wants the border to be a mess.
So you think that's suddenly going to resonate in a way it hasn't for the last 6 months?
Well, I mean, all we can do is tell the truth. I mean, I can't make up a story that's not true. The truth is that Republicans don't support cleaning up and addressing the border. They showed that this last year, and Democrats do. The truth is also that crossings of the border today are lower than they were at the end of Trump's time in office. The truth is also that Kamala Harris was given a very discreet task as vice president to slow down migration from 3 Central American countries. And 2 years into that job, she reduced migration by 50%. So I can only say what's true. And what is true is that Donald Trump wants the border to be a mess because he sees a chaotic border as a mechanism to make us fear each other, to make us scared of people who come from different places. Kamala Harris has a very specific plan to fix the problem at the border. She says she'll sign that bill if it gets to her desk as president. Let's just keep telling the truth, and voters will, decide whether they want to believe our truth or Donald Trump's lies.
So let me go back to the numbers you just cited, which are indeed, as you say, facts. I think that there are some parallels, Senator, with the economy, in that you put the facts out there, you put the numbers out there, and there is that part of the equation for voters. The other part is how they're feeling. So Donald Trump, his campaign has been successful at the politics of fear, right? That crime everywhere, crime at the border, crime in your cities is tied to what he sees as this huge influx of migrants who he says are mostly criminals, they're murderers, they're rapists. So in that equation of facts, data versus feeling, how do you turn that to a winning combination?
Oh, it's a really good question, right? You do have to acknowledge people's fear today. I mean, there are many neighborhoods in this country that have unacceptable levels of violence. That is just true. But you don't have to feed in to the irrational fear that Trump is trying to make people feel. And it is important to push back on this idea of a migrant crime wave. We don't have to accept that as the dominant narrative. Why? Because the data actually tells us that immigrants to this country commit crimes at a rate lower than natural-born Americans. Now, that is an inconvenient narrative for Fox News and for the Trump campaign, but it is true. So I think we have a moral obligation, as well as a political obligation, to push back against this idea that you are at risk if you live in a community with more migrants. And then we also just have to tell people that crime went up when Donald Trump was president. He did nothing to stop it. Crime is going down under Joe Biden, and he did something to stop it. He passed the most significant anti-gun violence bill in a generation. So again, we have these true narratives available to us, and your question is a good one. Will they work politically? I guess I don't know the answer to that question. I just know that if we say it enough, we have a chance to convince people of true things.
So let me ask you about some other truths, which is that the fundraising is off the charts, right? $500 million in a month, unlike anything we've ever seen before. Hundreds of thousands of people volunteering, state chairmen saying, and we have the infrastructure, the paid infrastructure to put those people to work. Kamala Harris has owned every news cycle since she got into this race a month ago. Having said all of that, what keeps you up at night?
Well, I mean, listen, there's going to be an effort to tell lies about Kamala Harris. They haven't figured out how to attack her. You heard J.D. Vance with some ridiculous argument that the Biden administration is separating families. What he's talking about in that interview is unaccompanied minors that actually show up to the United States without their parents by choice. That's a tragic situation, but that is the family's choice, that they are so desperate that they send the child to the United States by themselves. They're going to try to make up something about the vice president. We're going to have to be really quick with rapid response. I also do worry that there might be a little bit of complacency given the fact that the convention was so overwhelmingly positive. I love the fact that people are signing up to volunteer, but the question is, do they actually follow through? We need to make sure that people understand that just posting something on social media or signing up to volunteer doesn't get Kamala Harris elected. You actually have to register for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 shifts to go door knocking or make phone calls between now and the election. That's what we now have to do. Transfer all of this energy and interest into actual on-the-ground action.
Senator Chris Murphy, it's always good to have you on the program. Thank you.